This is another edition of The Higher Authority. We're very excited. We have our new studio, so welcome. I hope you guys enjoy this podcast today. To my left, I have Doug Wald. To my right, Aaron Frenchman, my two co-hosts. Today, we're going to be talking about graduates. LinkedIn had a guide about graduates and next steps in the employment industry. So let's get to it. I'm going to turn to you, Doug.
Yeah, thanks, Daria. Obviously there's a lot going on with the business climate and graduates. You just went through your courseware. Congratulations to all the grads out there that did a great job and looking at, the current job market. A lot of uncertainty, a lot of discussion around AI and different practices and such. But I think it affords graduates a little bit of an opportunity to kind of think outside the box a bit in terms of how do they best network, how do they best look at targeted opportunities that could be viable, that complement AI and those types of roles and things of that nature. Key geographies that are hiring where there's a lot of shifts going on in terms of people gravitating to different areas. So you're going to hear some of the newer areas and geographies that are active in hiring that you've heard of in the past, but some new ones that are taking shape in terms of different roles, different soft skills and things that could be helpful in your job pursuits coming right out of school. So
AI is, it's a huge opportunity for roles in the future. I guess the future's now.
Things are evolving, but they're already here.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
So, Skynet's going to be active any minute now.
Mm-hmm.
But, the big part of it is for recent graduates, and that's both college and high school, to focus on what's ahead and not be influenced so much on people who are thinking, it's still 2004. You have to be in New York City or LA or San Francisco. You have to do this. You have to do that. It's business as we know it is changing dramatically, geographically, job function. You no longer need to be in, the core 4 or 5 markets.
Oh no, you have like Austin, Salt Lake City, Orlando. You have a lot of hotspots now that when we were graduating 600 years ago. It was definitely like you knew you wanted. The song said it. You wanted to make it, you had to be in New York City. That's really, and then California was there, but now there's so many places that are just.
There are so many places across the country who, however you want to define it, financially, politically, whatever, have made it so much more attractive to bring your business. The idea of bringing your business to Orlando, unless you're in the theme park business, was, nonsense. 10 years ago.
Right.
Now, it's a tech hub.
And look at Nashville, right? So Nashville used to be like you would only think music. You would think that's what it was. Not anymore. Nashville's one of the places that you should be looking.
One of the scary things is a place that 10 years ago it was avoid at all costs. They're putting a ton of money into the Detroit metro area. And it's gone from just the auto industry. Again, it's a tech hub. Because you have a lot of viable workers who are X'd out of a shrinking industry. So.
And that speaks to a lot of the different market dynamics that we're seeing today. Why the market's tight. Obviously, we're coming out of post-COVID. We're coming out of different expenditures. Some geopolitical things, but some of the things that we're seeing is because of lack of openings, is because of there's job hugging, right? There's people that see what's going on and they hold on to their job. There's middle managers that aren't retiring now,
right?
So it's creating kind of this dynamic where new graduates have to kind of look at where are those areas of growth that we spoke about in terms of geography, but also the different industries, the different functions, different things that. And different soft skill practices around networking, around communication, around being agile, collaboration is going to be very important here. And so, we want to look at some of the different areas that we're seeing new job openings that are growing for new grads in function, and then we'll drill down into some of the geographies. So right now we're seeing obviously machine language and AI engineers.
Sure.
We're seeing marketing coordinators because companies have to double down on their brands. They have to double down on their communication, their demand generation.
Well, that's the same stuff we were talking about. There's not the yesterday.
No, that's exactly right.
You got to move forward.
Yeah, and that's where there's a lot of pivoting going on with these different industries. Sales. There's always sales jobs, right? We always need sales jobs. So there's business development that complements marketing to drive demand, to build pipelines, things of that nature. So new grads can look for business development opportunities there. Legal specialists. We've talked about legal in the past.
It used to be, right? So I specialize in attorneys and law firms and stuff like that. And it used to be that a litigation attorney was a litigation attorney. They could litigate anything. No, not anymore.
Right.
Now there are such specialized niches within those categories that if you're looking to be an attorney, you need to decide, what do you want to be plaintiff side? Do you want to be defense side? Do you want to be in construction? Do you want to be in malpractice and personal injury? And then within those specialties, there are additional places to drill down. So if you're in construction, where are you within that? Are you handling like liens, or are you handling 881s? Like where are you? So I mean, it's for kids today or young adults or whatever you'd like to call them. I mean, it's harder.
Right.
It's harder because once you pigeonhole yourself into something, that's it. That's where you're going. And if you want to segue, you need to have some other form of education to get to that segue as well. I mean, it's overall, I would think it's a little overwhelming for them.
Yeah, well, it's managing those information sets, and I don't know if you've seen this, in the services world or other worlds, but information sets are changing. Governance is changing, right? So how are you doing research? How are you doing due diligence, legal, or services groups, or things of that nature? And that also applies to HR now. We're seeing HR specialists are going to be needed because, again, how are HR organizations encompassing AI? How are they encompassing new information frameworks for people, for training, for processes, for compliance, for a lot of those different things? Loan officers, we're seeing this in the financial services area. And also purchasing coordinators, same thing. How are they qualifying vendors? How are they looking at their due diligence? Are they viable vendors? So a lot of these different roles, can encompass those different information sets and be able to govern them. But these are areas that we're seeing growth in, and it could be really good opportunities for graduates.
Absolutely. Oh, sorry about that.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they're definitely good growth areas. But again, I think it's still, I think you have a little bit of a problem because you need to drill down and you really need to know where you want to go with it.
Right.
I think it's still it's a painful experience. I think as a mom,
but it's a needed experience. So I'm not sure if you see this stuff too. Or...
And you mentioned it as a mom. I have a recent college graduate, and I have I don't know how, but an upcoming high school graduate. Who is headed off to college. You have one who's 1 year behind. We're talking about graduates now. Let's talk about like the high school graduates and the ones coming up. You have to look at what the landscape is now and try to get ahead of it because AI advances so quickly. That the job that might be the hot new thing in 2026, class of 2030, you might already be moving on from that. You got to do the research to get ahead of the curve. So when you are specializing, you're specializing in something that is coming down the pike, not already in the rearview mirror. And it just... That's, I think, the scariest thing and things that we didn't have to deal with.
Right.
Things didn't move this fast.
No.
I mean, the closest to it was maybe the .com boom.
Yeah.
Where you know, you were trying to separate your website and your everything from, I mean, whether it was a sock puppet or, you know, whatever. But this is so much more advanced.
Yeah.
And it's so much more, there's so much more risk that has to be addressed.
Right.
You threw up a website, if it didn't work, the website went down.
Right.
Yeah.
Now you're worried about all of these things trying to get ahead of the curve in AI. And like you were mentioning, I mean, you need compliance people, legal people.
Yeah.
We don't even know right now what the ramifications are of using AI and it being wrong. What's, you know,
look at that school that just did it. Did you see the thing? The
Right,
college?
yeah.
I mean, that was terrible. All
Yeah.
those kids are standing and
Right.
their names are not called,
Right.
and they refuse to call them.
Right.
And that my heart, you know,
Yeah.
hurts for those
Yeah.
kids. You pay all that money.
Right.
I mean, you have nieces and nephews. You
Right,
know what we're
yeah,
talking
yeah,
about. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
you're there. You want to hear the name.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, it's those things are really they are rapidly changing. And what do you use and what don't you use and how do you know? And I think that's why, you know, tech and media is such a big industry that kids should go into.
Yep, and that's a great point around governance, right?
Yeah.
Governance, oversight, you know,
Yeah.
understanding the systems, being able to provide that human interaction and oversight to trust and verify and
Yeah.
do things that. But it's a good segue into, you know, the areas of growth that we
Right.
see in terms of what industries are hiring for the next generation. Tech and media clearly are going to be ones, you know, that are always advancing, always moving. But you know, we're seeing just in the general labor market a lot more activity in tech and media. You know, given the rising tide lifting boats and things of that nature. So you know, in a number of different functions and capacities, real estate. We're starting to see a lot more activity in terms of, again, analysis, data. You know, you go on these Zillows or these other sites, and you could drill out down to neighborhoods and drill down into, you know, virtual real-time data that's feeding these types of things. So it becomes much more dynamic, to your point, right? Financial services, also banking, quant, you know, all these different areas that are obviously expanding and growing. Their numbers, their earnings seem to be pretty good, you know, in the last few quarters. So they're trying to expand there. Utilities is also a big one, right? So utilities, because of capacity for AI, because of data centers being built, capacity, storage, semiconductors, things of that nature, are all feeding into the utilities market that are growing as well. And we always talk about construction, right? Construction still, you know, because of the shifts in different dynamics for hot areas.
Will never die.
Right, exactly. And
you
know, with commercial development, residential development, you know, you're starting to see a lot of activity where they need that analysis, where they need that oversight, that governance, whether it's contracts, supply chains, vendor engagements, you know, design. You know, there's so many different areas. So we're starting to see, you know, based on LinkedIn's report of, you know, the areas of growth for new graduates that, you know, could be a good target for you.
And, you know, talking about all this, you can be a recent graduate or a parent of a recent graduate and look at this in kind of a panic situation. My kid is not a techie. My kid's not a designer. My kid's not a salesperson.
It's okay.
There's nothing to be afraid of because for all of this that we're talking about, like we mentioned, governance and date, there for all of these opportunities that come up, there's the behind the scenes part. There's the people in the HR roles, in the governance roles, in the, you know, admin roles.
Operations, totally,
Keep everyone afloat, keep everyone honest. So the opportunities are kind of across capacities for people. You don't have to look at it like, well, I'm no computer engineer, so I'm out of luck. For every new boom industry, there's the support people behind the scenes that you can be an expert in and make a great career for yourself.
Absolutely. And with that, you know, you look at the different geographies that we discussed and touched on earlier. You're going to hear about the traditional ones, you know, the San Franciscos, the New Yorks, you know, the ones that generally because of the tech hubs. But there's some really interesting ones that are really coming about based on Aaron's point earlier around investment, you know, easier cost of living, lower taxes, things of that nature. So, you know, you want to cover some of these different geographies. Let's talk about them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very interesting that Salt Lake City's on there.
Mhm.
Who would have ever thought Utah?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Like I would have never in my wildest dreams
Right.
thought that would be one of the hubs
Yeah.
right now.
And a lot of it's an output of tech, but also output. I mean, Delta Airlines has a big hub there, huge
Yeah.
hub. They also do have quite a bit of financial services there, and a lot of banks, that regional banks and things. So lower cost of living, nice way of life there. So a lot of people have gravitated to Salt Lake City and Utah for the last bunch of years, and it's growing quite a bit. So that's one area where seeing better cost of living, lower taxes, more opportunity there, a good university structure there,
and a lot of land to build.
That's exactly right. Yeah,
if you look, a lot of the growth areas either have a lot of land to build or a lot of bad property that can be renewed for this use. Because that's a huge thing in real estate, is the conversion from office to residential, from commercial to mixed use. And it's hard to build those things in a place like New York or LA or Chicago, because there's no space to build. But if you're in Salt Lake City, maybe 5 years ago you would have been in Denver. But Denver's built out. But you want to be in that area. So that's all of this growth. Nashville, I mean, it was always a country music town, but Nashville was small. Now, the places around Nashville are high-end, either residential suburbs or an extension of commercial. So this is what you're getting. It's so much easier to invest your money and get more bang for it, and know your employees aren't going to want to relocate because they can't afford to live in Manhattan. Or in San Francisco because they're not a tech CEO. So there's some interesting places. I mean, little places, or places that you used to think were little. Charleston, South Carolina is what the North Carolina, the Triad and the Triangle, Charlotte, Raleigh, that's where they were 10 years ago. Now they're building up that area because people want to live further out of the city.
And you're seeing a lot of manufacturing activity in Charleston, access to the ports, access to transportation hubs, supply chain hubs. So you're starting to see that. You're also, we talked about Austin earlier. You look at Seattle's going to be a traditional one around tech, but Detroit's an interesting one. And Aaron brought up a point about
Detroit's really
about transitioning from traditional manufacturing and auto manufacturing to other high tech hubs, other things that they're doing integrations for, and things of that nature. And the cost of living is pretty inexpensive in Detroit. It might be a little colder, but in climate, but you're starting to see a lot of activity, in that part of Michigan, certainly. So it's good stuff.
What do you think at this point it takes to break into the fields now?
Well, I think a lot of the things that we've talked about in the past on previous podcasts around your soft skills. A lot of it's still tried and true. It doesn't have to rely on over technology. There's a lot of noise around AI and a lot of different things. Tried and true things that are going to be important. Making sure that you communicate well. Networking, we talk about often, very regularly here at the higher authority, right? So networking is going to be an important piece. Also, focus on your skills and focus on the things that you're good at, right? Not, my dream job could be this, because your dream job might not be the dream job that you thought it was, and we've talked about that on previous episodes too. So
in a middle role at that point. To your point is, don't focus on I need to get this job. Maybe you can take that middle role and sort of work your way into that dream job.
That's exactly right. And learn by doing. If you've done things, in college or in high school, if you've managed projects, if you've designed things, if you've run communication programs, whatever, the more that you do things, the 10,000 hours of being an expert in those types of things, the more that you do things, the more you become acclimated to an environment, people, relationships, communications, so those are a couple of things that, graduates can look at, leveraging your skills to be, a better performer, and feel more confident in what you're doing.
And as a graduate, and again, I have a daughter who's a recent grad. wherever you went to school, there is going to be someone or a group of someones who also went there who can help you along the way.
Yeah.
Leverage your network, for sure. Alumni, yeah.
For someone who is fresh out of school and doesn't have previous work relationships,
You're right.
that is where you start.
Yeah.
You start with your alumni network, and you should be following that, not after graduation, from basically the second you walk on campus.
Yeah.
The second you're about to make a decision on where to go, it shouldn't be where the best tailgate is. It's important. But it should be 4 years from now, do I have a network of people to reach out to? Oh, well, Stanford University has the most CEOs of any college. And here's the list. And look at where I'm going. I'm going to number 7.
Yeah.
That means you have a great opportunity. And even if it's a community college, or if you're going to hammer away on a trade, you know what? 3 of the 4 top plumbing contractors in this area all went to this trade school.
Yeah.
Use that to your advantage, and it's never too late. So even if you're just graduating now and you're just getting on it, there are so many tools that can allow you to find that stuff quickly. We didn't have LinkedIn. We had to go to the alumni office and beg. Now go on LinkedIn, do a search on the industries that you're looking for, the titles you want to connect with, and put in your school.
Yeah.
You'll get a list.
You might even surprise yourself, and you might think this is where you want to be. And you could say, well, wait a minute, I see all of these people in this specific sector.
Yep.
Maybe this is where I segue, which I think is why that middle position is important, because you're going to work for a very long time.
Right.
And so you might as well make it something that is, where you want to be kind of thing.
No, for sure.
And talking about the roles, talking about the up and coming locations, all of these things, there's one central connector to all that I think a lot of graduates or people coming up to graduates miss. They all want, or at least a lot, want the sexy job at the sexy company in the sexy town. I want to be with this fashion in this company, in Manhattan, doing this. Well, you know what? Maybe the best career move for you is to be in Charleston, South Carolina, working for a widget manufacturer, because that's where your long-term career success can be.
Right. That could be on the periphery of fashion. Could be fashion accessories. It could be other things
Absolutely.
that on that ecosystem, right? So at least you're learning some of the vernacular. You're learning some of the processes and things like that. So certainly looking at those targets, it would be important, right?
Yeah. Final thoughts.
One last final thought. Be AI curious.
Yes.
You don't have to be an AI expert, but I'm working with companies, AI software companies right now, that are bringing people in and interviewing them and saying, do you play with AI? Just even a little bit. Do you work in ChatGPT or Claude or some of the other more popular systems at the moment? Are you running different processes? Are you running different prompts? Are you developing certain things around research? Are you in the mix a little bit? You don't have to be a machine language expert in creating code and creating all these work streams and such, but show that you're interested. Show that you have kind of your finger on the pulse of different applications and different use cases, because that's something that employers are going to be looking for. So be a little AI curious. I think that'll be helpful for your job search.
Yeah, I think at some point, every role within a company, you're going to have to be at least somewhat AI competent.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, and I think that you should, when you figure out where you want to go, quote unquote, you should see how AI affects that specific industry.
Mhm.
At least educate yourself a little
Yeah.
and see where that component is, because it's one of those things that we know is going to be prevalent in every
Yeah.
industry. It's just how it fits into that, module, you're not really sure.
And it's a great question to ask in the interview process.
Yeah.
If the job description doesn't mention it, where do you see AI factoring in not only to my role but to the entire company,
right,
moving
where
forward?
Right.
Not everyone's asking that.
Right.
Most of the time people ask questions that are just based on the job description,
Right.
or based on money and culture.
Right.
Show that
Be
you're
curious.
thinking forward. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you guys. This has been
Yeah, thank you.
fantastic.
Yeah, for sure.
It's another edition of The Higher Authority. If you'd like to be a guest on the show or have any questions or comments, please contact us at info@execsally.com. Thanks for joining us.